Hi, everybody. It is Jonathan from Radio Tokyo, and we're not doing a cold open this on this episode. And clearly, we did not do our Friday episode, so this is kind of to make up for all of that. First off, I want to say that this show is dedicated to Miss Tig Notaro, the comedian. I watched her special on HBO last night titled Girlish Boy Interrupted, and I want to say near the end of it, she did something that I thought was pretty impressive. 2 or 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she has had a double mastectomy. And for those of you who don't know what that means that she had her breast removed. Miss Notaro, for the past 3 or 4 shows that she has done, has gotten up on stage, mentioned it, mentioned how horrible it was and everything. Told a story about going through a TSA line in an airport, and then she takes her shirt off and she does the rest of her show shirtless, showing the world what it looks like. It's actually a pretty impressive thing to see. So, this, like I said, this is dedicated to her because if she can do that, pretty much anyone can do everything. And the reason I'm saying that is because I know several women who have been affected by breast cancer, and it's a pretty touching thing to have seen. So thank you, Tig, and fuck cancer. Now let's get into this show because, like I said, this is going to be our Saturday show and our Monday show all wrapped together. This past weekend was actually a pretty rough weekend. Um, One, my birthday was this weekend. I'm 33 now. Yay, go me. Two, Danny and Nick were both busy all weekend. I was busy all weekend, so we kept putting it off and putting it off. We were supposed to do the show on Saturday, and we just never got around to it. And Sunday came around, and it was basically fuck it. So here you go. I'm gonna try and go over what we were supposed to do then and what I had planned to talk about today. Except what I had planned to talk about today is kind of messed up now because yesterday the world was hit pretty hard. Starting yesterday morning, it was announced that Oliver Sacks had passed away. Now, you may not recognize the name, but if you recognize the name Robin Williams, then you do know something. You might know something about Oliver Sacks. Robin Williams starred in a movie called Awakenings that was actually based on a book by Oliver Sacks, and it was actually something he had done. Oliver Sacks was a neurologist, and he had worked with people in the late 70s to uh, test out a drug on trying to get people to have breakthroughs. Now he dealt with uh, mental disorders and people who were schizophrenic and whatnot, and had just kind of shut the rest of the world off. But a few years ago, he was diagnosed. Well, actually, it was earlier this year. He was diagnosed with cancer again. Fuck cancer. Uh, but he wrote a beautiful uh, article for I believe the New York Times in February of this year, and I just want to read the closing paragraphs because this is honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. I have been increasingly conscious for the last 10 years or so of deaths among my contemporaries. My generation is on the way out, and each death I have felt as an abruption, a tearing away of part of myself. There will be no one like us when we are gone, but then there is no one like anyone else, ever. When people die, they cannot be replaced. They leave holes that cannot be filled, for it is the fate, the genetic and neural fate of every human being to be a unique individual, to find his own path, to live his own life, to die his own death. I cannot pretend I am without fear, but my predominant feeling is one of gratitude. I have loved and am been loved. I have been given much, and I have given something in return. I have read and traveled and thought and written. I have had an intercourse with the world, the special intercourse of writers and readers. Above all, I have been a sentient being, a thinking animal, on this beautiful planet, and that in itself has been an enormous privilege and adventure. So, our second dedication this week is to Mr. Oliver Sacks, who was born July 9th, 1933, and passed away yesterday. Also, because this, the sadness kind of hit us really hard this weekend. He was not the only person. On Friday, uh, uh, I just forgot his name from it. I'm sorry. I had to stop. Kyle Jean Baptiste, the youngest actor ever to portray Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, died on Friday. No, yeah, Saturday. Saturday. I'm sorry, Saturday. He died on Saturday. He fell to his death, and if you now, like I said, youngest person ever play him, and not only that, but he was also the first black man to portray Jean Valjean on stage. If you've never seen Les Miserables, you've never read the book, you don't know anything about it, you need to. It's a life-changing story, and for this young man to have been a part of that, even only for a little while, is impressive to me. So this is also dedicated to Kyle Jean Baptiste. And also, lastly, last night the world was kind of shocked to find out that one of the arguably best horror directors of all time, Wes Craven, died. Wes Craven had brain cancer, so that's out of everybody that this show is dedicated to, only one of them did not have cancer. Again, fuck cancer. But yes, Wes Craven passed away yesterday. It's pretty sad. I grew up loving his movies. I loved Nightmare on Elm Street probably more than anything else he's done. Now, that's not to say I have not enjoyed his movies, but Mr. Craven is responsible for a lot of laughs and a lot of sadness and a lot of nightmares and stuff for a lot of people. So it's really hard to know he's gone. Okay, now all the dedication stuff is out of the way. I want to get to what we promised Friday's show was going to start off with, and that was going to be the Ed, Ed and Eddie theory. Now, if you are not aware of this, this might be a little bit depressing, but given the introduction for this episode, you probably shouldn't be surprised. Okay, very simply, all the kids in the cul-de-sac, with the exception of the Canker sisters, are dead. Now, the idea is that they're actually in purgatory. They're not in heaven or hell, but they're in purgatory. Okay, and it all works out very simply. Uh, Rolf was the first one to die. He died in the early 1900s. He is clearly an immigrant who's come here, and again he died, and that's why he's stuck in the old world. Johnny, the kid with Plank, died in the 1920s, and that's why he has the imaginary friend Plank. That was during the Great Depression. You know, uh, uh, Eddie died in the 1930s, and like late 1930s, which is why he always has what's presumably supposed to be a wallet chain, but it's more like a watch chain, and in a lot of ways, well, actually, no wallet chain, and he walks around, twirling it. That was something that was typically done of gangsters, or supposed to be something that was done in gangsters, the 1930s, 1940s. It's stereotype. Um, Ed, single D, and his sister died in 1950s. Naz died in the late 1970s. Double D died in the 1980s, and let's see who else am I missing. Kevin died in the late 1990s, and Jimmy died around 2000 or so. Now that's spanning nearly 100 years here. Uh, Now it's pretty interesting theory. Excuse me, but I want to get into this. Okay, according to the theory, Rolf's family came here in the 1900s, and they're probably the first family that was in Peach Creek, which is the neighborhood this all takes place in. Rolf dies somewhere there after he was working on the farm, presumably getting trampled by farm animals, and that's the reason why in his lifetime, in the afterlife, he gets The references for the cow, the goat, pigs, and everything else. Okay, that's why that's all there. Johnny came to the cul-de-sac not long after Rolf's death, and he had no friends, and which is why he has Plank. Now, the idea is, maybe Johnny had tuberculosis. We don't know. But uh, next, of course, Eddie, who came here, ideally from New York, during the end of the Great Depression. Um, but he is such a schemer that he always wants to make he always wants to make money, and that's why he's always after getting money and trying to swindle people, because he grew up during the Depression and he grew up not having money. Ed and Sarah comes next, and their father probably died in World War II. What, not really know. And their mother is kind of distant, which means Sarah, being the boss of your kid, is in charge, because she didn't know their dad that much. But Ed did, and that's why he's always kind of a loner. Okay, and it's just like a coping mechanism for him, and that's why they have their different lives. And according to theory, they probably died in a car wreck. Who knows? Naz was born in the '60s. She's clearly a hippie in the show if you watch her. Now, there's nothing that says exactly why she may be dead, but it's thought maybe she was killed by a serial killer, and that's why, you know, she's just the way she is, and like why she's so happy and carefree, and everything's okay. And I don't know, it's a bit of a stretch. Anyway, Double D was born in the '80s, and he had parents who were always around him, always controlled him, told him he had to do this, told him he had to do that. And according to theory, maybe he died because, he was forming an experiment to try and get away from his parents, or maybe he even committed suicide. Kevin was born around the time Double D died and lived in a broken home with an abusive father, and he came in and he became a bully in life, okay? Now, how he died, we don't actually know. Uh, but it's possible he was beaten to death by his dad, which is kind of the theory here. Jimmy was the absolute last kid, and Jimmy, I'll just go ahead and say it. Jimmy presumably had cancer. Now the Canker children, the sisters, uh, it's possible that they are uh, also kids, but it's more likely that they're demons who have come to torment the children in the cul-de-sac, which is what they see all the time. Now, this actually has been discussed by Danny Antonucci, who was the creator of the show, but in his debunking of it, it was never actually explicitly said, no, we didn't intend this. So make up your own mind about the series, because it's actually pretty entertaining theory. But what's more entertaining than that is the other one we're supposed to get to, which is the Pixar theory. Now I mentioned there is a very long list of things that connect every Pixar movie together. That's Brave, The Incredibles, Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, Ratatouille, Toy Story 3, Up, Cars, Cars 2, Wall-E, Ant's Life, and then Monsters Inc. So let's just get into this. It's kind of long. We're dealing with like 16 different things here, okay? Okay. The Pixar universe theory starts off with Brave. And the idea is that Merida discovers, magic, okay? The magic turns her mom into a bear. The magic is why animals and inanimate objects and stuff behave like people. And it was also used by the witch in the movie. Eventually, the magic that Merida has discovered leads to the birth of superheroes. Now, this all takes place in the 14th and 15th century. So you have people who are clearly affected by it. They're much stronger, they're much more powerful and everything. And then you have animals that are also affected by it too. Now, the animals are going to come in later, okay? By the time the 1950s or 1960s, you have the Incredibles movie, which is made, and the superheroes have come into existence to maintain order in the world. Okay, now you have robots, and there's stuff like that that are there to help with this all powerful energy and stuff like that. Now, what happens is around this point in time, this energy that the villain in the movie has created has made um, it's trying to affect inanimate objects. Now, of course, again, back in Brave, we already had animals and stuff that were affected by this. So now, because of humans being stupid and doing human things, this powerful energy, which is not magic, okay, is now affecting toys and everything. And then you go directly to Toy Story, which takes place in 97, 98, somewhere around there, okay? The first sign of life from toys, due to Syndrome, which is the villain in The Incredibles, is that they're sentient now, okay? So we've gone through 40 years or so, and toys have become increasingly more sentient as machines and everything are becoming more aware. Okay, now they've come up with a code of rules, and they have uh, a society that they've built. Human love is actually their energy source. If you haven't noticed this, the toys discover that whatever happens to toys is entirely separate from whatever happens to people. And then Toy Story 2 comes into play here, and the toys discover that it's actually bad for them to be isolated. Inanimate objects, or what normally would be inanimate objects, are actually starting to question their reason for being here. Just like Jessie does not like her owner, Emily, because she abandoned her. Okay? Now, this leads to resentment from animals. I'm sorry, resentment to animals against humans. Now, this is toys, animals, and everything else are now resenting humans because humans have been here and we've been screwing things up for hundreds of years. And that goes directly to Finding Nemo. And we find out that fish are super advanced, okay? And humans have been including the Earth and experimenting on them, capturing them, and making our own pets and everything. The resentment continues to grow against humans for polluting the environment, stealing fish, and putting them in cages and everything. Okay, and then animals at this point in time are becoming more and more uh, interested in what's going on outside of their normal environment, and they're taking on more and more human characteristics, which lead us to Ratatouille, where you have Remy, who actually starts cooking. And not only does he cook, but he engages with people. Now, he is the first animal to actually engage with a human being outside of the movie Brave. And that goes to Toy Story 3, which is, maybe 3 years after uh, uh, Ratatouille, or somewhere around there. Now, the toys have been going through a lot with humans. And as you can see in the movie, you see a lot of them have been abused physically, mentally, and emotionally by people. Okay, and Andy has to get rid of his toys, which is abandonment, and he gives them to a little girl, which means having an energy source and whatnot. But there's still that animosity between large numbers of toys. Okay, so what happens is, presumably, that goes directly into Up. That does go directly into Up. Now, Carl, as Danny mentioned, is in Up, is most likely to know Andy. Now, maybe Andy wrote to Carl and told him what was going on, because Carl's been alive to see a lot of this stuff. Okay, but in Up, Carl is forced to give up his home because a large corporation tells him that he has to do it because they want to expand the city. So that means technology is coming everywhere, pollution is coming everywhere. People are expanding. There's more people, so on and so on and so on. Okay, now maybe everything at this point in time is tired of taking shit from humanity. Maybe all the toys and maybe all of the animals and the plants and everything else decided, hey, we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight back. So that's what happened. Okay, so you skip ahead to about 100 years or so after humanity is gone, and you have, ta-da, cars. Kind of creepy to think about that. The animals rose up against humans to stop pollution. The machines saved humans, and the machines won the war. However, the machines, uh, after they won, the machines kind of took everything over, and they built a ship for humans called the Axiom, which was sent off into space. Okay, and the machines that are left there to populate the world and everything, and maybe they took over the world, and maybe they even took over another planet. Who knows? The cars in Cars 2 are in Europe and Japan, which, we know this is the same one that every other Pixar movie, the same planet Pixar movies are in everywhere else. Okay? Now, in this movie, you have a brand new fuel source, which has come out. It's a green fuel source and everything, trying to turn cars away from alternative energy sources. Now, the clean fuel could have been used to swiftly wipe out many of the cars, but it wasn't. Whatever. Point being, at the end of the movie, it's almost impossible for Earth to sustain life, including the cars, and that ties in the planes and trains and everything else. All machines are left, which goes directly to Wall-E, which is hundreds and hundreds of years after this. Uh, Wall-E is the only machine left on Earth that is still functioning. Now he's interested in knowing, what happened before him, and he's on Earth, but you just don't know exactly what happened. So Wall-E, at this point in time, has gone on. Uh, by the end of the movie, he has brought humanity back. He's planted the first seed and everything, which goes directly into a bug's life. Okay. Now, insects are going to grow up in this environment, and they're going to learn to adapt to it and everything. And uh, prior to Wall-E, ants could only live, 3 or 4 months. Okay, but the ants in a bug's life actually live for the entirety of the summer. 3, 4, 5 months, whatever. And that's because humans aren't really around. Like humanity is still not reestablished itself, but the ants are here, and the other bugs are here, and they're taking over. Now, keep in mind, this is upwards of 1,000 years in the future here, and that goes directly into Monsters Inc. Monsters University. I'm sorry, Monsters University. Okay, uh, the monsters are actually not monsters; they're actually radiation that has been left over. Okay, uh, all those years of all those machines and everything else, this big war from all his energy sources and everything has wound up polluting the environment again. Okay, now all these ant stuff that are there, well, they're just, they grow up and they become monsters and everything. So that's where we get the idea that everything has just about come full circle. Okay, now the monsters uh, cannot live without having human fear. They're just like the toys. They're pretty much the opposite of toys in Toy Story. But there are no humans left. So what do? Ta-da! They create time machines, and they're able to travel around. Okay, and that leads you to the character of Boo. Now, uh, if you notice in the movie, there's the distinct possibility that Boo is the one who actually developed the time travel. Okay, and you notice they all use these wooden doors. Well, wooden doors goes back to Brave. Okay, why does it go back to Brave? Well, everything was impacted by magic that was sentient, that was there in everything. It was it was natural magic. Okay, and if you remember the witch in there carved stuff out of wood. Hint, hint, everybody. Like it winds up coming back full circle. So Boo, could have gone back and started all this over again. In fact, Boo could even be the witch. Who knows? I don't know. It's an interesting theory, but yeah, I have talked for an incredibly long time this time, and no, actually about half an hour. But anyway, I hope I've caught all of you up on what we were going to go over and what and what we're going to go over today, at least on Friday and today. But yeah, Wednesday show's coming up, Friday show's coming up. I promise we're gonna do our best to get it taken care of. Tomorrow's actually September 1st, and if you play World of Warcraft, flying will be available in Draenor then. Hooray! Yeah, a lot of stuff this week, busy week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, rather. Thank you for liking us on Facebook, subscribing to us here on YouTube. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe this video. Tell Nick how much you hate him. Tell Danny, don't leave again. And by the way, our announcement for who won the contest will be posted soon. I keep forgetting to pick a winner, so that's coming soon. Yeah, Wednesday, Friday show coming up. That's about it. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye bye.